So today we're talking about the intersection of independent film and television. And I just wanted to start first with addressing the incredible change we've seen in the last decade or two in cable television. Does cable television these days offer more freedom and flexibility in storytelling than, say, compared with film?
I think the answer is yes. Somebody asked me the other day, what was in a film panel, a feature film panel, what was the most important thing to happen to film in the past 10 years? And I said cable television, because it's thanks to cable television that a lot of feature filmmakers are able to tell their stories and invent their characters, and they don't feel the limitation necessarily of a 2-hour format, so that they can invent characters and relationships and continue to work with them. And there's so many really fantastic premium cable outlets right now that you can find any number of outlets that will be interested in telling any different kinds of stories, and you don't need huge numbers. You don't need huge pairs of eyeballs to justify some of the shows. So every major filmmaker I'm working with is either already involved in television or wants desperately to be involved in television.
I mean, cable television, as we know, it has a different sort of economic structure to, free-to-air television or to feature films, in that they want often critically driven shows. They want people to subscribe, and that just means that, how that translates in terms of the programming that they're after is very different to a film, which has more and more pressure on opening incredibly strongly, the pressure of further films coming down through the track. The aim of cable television is different to some of the other television and films, and so it allows for a much freer form of content, which is wonderful for all of us and for audiences.
I don't know that much about television because I don't watch it. But I watch DVDs and other ways of getting material. But I think what has really been fantastic for us is that with the cable TV shows is that they still want to attract their audience with perhaps one show that they'll invest quite a lot of money in. For example, our show.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Is this actually working? Yeah.
I can hear you.
Can you
all hear?
And so, I mean, I felt that we were given a great opportunity, and that we were given enough funding in a way to really make something that we could be proud of, And I think for filmmakers, freedom is one thing, and then you have to be a little bit of a business person too, because you have to have enough money to be able to do your story well, or it's just sad, and you feel you're cheating story and the audience. And I guess I can go on. Yeah. What I would also say is that, if anything, I think what's exciting about filmmakers coming in and doing television is that they're bringing in what they think is natural as like their filmmaking standards and their expectation for more time to do things, more rehearsal time, more time with the actors. And then hopefully the audience likes that and, will be demanding it, and there'll be more money for people doing these shows and longer time to do them.
Your approach to television, whether it's a 6-hour project as opposed to a 2-hour feature film, or an open-ended series such as Breaking Bad where there is no end point in sight, how does your approach from a storytelling perspective or a directing perspective or even a producing perspective differ from when you approach a film?
Well, I mean, from a production perspective, I had no experience in television, and neither did the sort of other producers who work with me, and Jane and Joe had some, but sort of limited experience. So that gave us a lot of freedom. I think we decided from early on that we would approach it like 3 independent films. We said, we've got 6 hours, let's break them into 3 times 2. And somehow the way we thought of it seemed to, at the beginning, work in that way. It was, the budget size. It was sort of like doing 3 low-budget films. And that's very different from a 6-hour television series. We didn't structure it around one sort of studio. We didn't have a studio build like a normal, maybe, long-running TV series where you sort of jump in and out. We shot in locations. We decided to put the money on the ability to travel to the locations, which were often an hour away from our base, so we'd lose time during the day. And the shoot length was really our most important thing, to make sure that we gave Jane and Garth enough time to be able to, work with the actors. They had one camera, two cameras, sort of depended a bit, but they had the time to treat it like an indie film rather than we're in one space, we've got a whole heap of cameras, let's just go and shoot it as quickly as possible over a very short amount of time. So our choice of heads of department, choice of crew, everything was, and quite befitting this panel today, was very much the nexus of independent film and the sort of new wave of television, which is more sort of auteur-driven.
I mean, for me, when you're considering making a feature film, that it feels like there's a lot of anxiety about getting an audience to come and see it. And as Ray mentioned, there are lots of wonderful independent films we don't get to see, that there isn't enough exhibition or way of getting audiences to come and see them. I mean, I have a suspicion that with television, if you're doing these innovative shows, and we're being asked to do that, BBC Two's mandate to us was, in Sundance as well, look, be innovative. We want your vision. We don't want what you think we want. I have a feeling that it's just much easier for an audience also to be experimental in their home, like give it a go, turn it on. They don't have to get in their car, go to the movie, ask 6 people if it's any good. The risk is much slighter for them. Mm-hmm. And they don't have to pay for the, parking, the movie, the babysitter. And I would say a lot of my audience would be people with kids. It's hard for them to organise to get out. So, I do think these considerations, when you make a film, you feel like you have to have a higher concept, or a high concept that people can kind of get quite quickly. It can attract attention in a way.
And you've got to push your way through the story as well. You don't have time to stop. One of the balance in Top of the Lake was this crime mystery story, which takes you through as the sort of dramatic engine, but then having the time to explore the women's camp and the Mitchum group, and we thought, could we cut this down to some sort of theatrical length? But you realise if we cut anything, it would be the stuff that made it worthwhile, and the things that are able to flower and sort of be expansive off the side of the dramatic through line really is what makes this so unusual. And I felt certainly one of my jobs is to try to really protect that at all costs all the way along and make sure that we have those moments, because that's what people are going to remember the series by.
In actual fact, it is a theatrical experience to see, as we did, the whole 6 hours with an audience yesterday, and have everybody still be there plus more, and then sit for another hour. I think it made a kind of feeling of community. We've all gone through this community experience, and I mean, I think there are all sorts of ways of being together as people, that we can keep discovering. It does feel like, everyone's in their own little world in the universe with their tweets and their machines and phones and computers. And there is a bit of a yearning, to be more connected without all that stuff.
Yeah, to be sort of partly physically connected in the same room at least, which it was a fantastic experience. A guy sort of stopped me out in the foyer and sort of looked into my eyes and said, "Thank you, man, that just had to be made, it's the world's waiting for that, it triggered so much in me." And I was
shameless self-advertising here.
I was kind of a bit embarrassed because Americans are much more forthright about their emotions than we are. And then he started crying, and then I started crying, and it was like, I know, and it had really, that's why I write, to make, to heal people. And there it was happening right in front of me, and it was good for me too.